Yep. All right, folks. It's been a weird day. Hey, y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. Let me get my glasses on here. Alrighty, as I'm sure many of you are probably watching at this point, it looks like we may actually be pretty darn close to the launch. I have been waiting to see if SpaceX was going to decide to put a video up, a video stream. They said they were supposed to, but I have not seen that yet. Currently looking at very, very soon. Potentially as soon as like 3 minutes or so. Let me just move things around. I apologize for not being able to show a feed at this point. I was waiting for SpaceX to show theirs. I don't want to get in trouble for copyright violation or whatever copyright strike that they call it. Just kind of moving some windows around here so I can see a little bit better. All right. There we go. That should look a little bit better. And let me turn this down a little bit. Alrighty. So yeah, we've got a lot of venting. I'm going to put on some headphones so I can kind of hear what's going on. And let's see. Dude. Alright. Apparently not hearing anything. That's odd. I'm not sure why I can't hear anything. But, okay. Wow, that was a whole bunch of venting we just saw coming out. I am hopefully going to catch videos. I'm trying to load up their videos, but I'm not seeing anything thus far. Yeah, it did appear like they might be detanking for sure. All right, let me see if I can reload this again. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything on their homepage yet, so we're working on it. It may be detanking. I'm not exactly sure if it is or if it's doing something else. It's very unclear. All right, just give me 1 second here, and I will definitely answer questions in a moment. Sorry, I'm trying to get everything set up. This all came about. It wasn't looking like anything was going to happen, and then suddenly it looked like everything was going to happen consistent, like all at once. And I was like, oh, crap, we got to get going here. Anyway, so let me make sure I've got... Yeah, there we go. Now, hopefully, there we go. Now I can hear. Okay. Trying to pay attention and see what's going on here. So on my Discord channel, if anybody happens to see that SpaceX has brought up a video, definitely let me know. So there. We're just kind of seeing everything go. All right. All right, so here we go. Let me take off my headphones for a minute. It looks like we may have gone backwards a little bit. Alrighty. Let me get the chat going here. Alrighty. Hey folks, let me put this up so I can see what's going on. Hello. Yeah, Donacha, it looked like they detanked. I was like, just as soon as I decided to go ahead and start the stream, because I didn't want to start it and tease everybody, it like instantly, as soon as I started to do that, it looked like they detanked. So I was like, that's just lovely. Let's see, it keeps burying my live chat thing. So okay. Yeah, Elon tweet, unlike its aircraft, which is fine. Yes. I like that. Definitely, is that Akuma? Yeah, I saw that tweet a little while ago because the FAA is a mess. So, well, C. Butchner 1. It's supposed to be, hopefully it's going to be the Starship serial number 9, but we will see what actually happens. We have not actually gotten anything. It really actually looked, there was a whole bunch of venting. The engines were venting, so it looked like the oxygen tanks were tanking up, and they were cooling the engines down. And then apparently there was a lot of detanking, or it could have been, one never knows, it could have just been an intermediate detanking that they were doing, because I would think that they would have had to detank a whole lot more than that in order to get rid of all the O2 and methane that were in there. I think I'm looking at, there's a bunch of frost on the rings. By the way, I apologize about the lack of video feed at this point. I just don't want to get a copyright strike. So my suggestion would be you could look at The Everyday Astronaut, you can look at Lab Padre or Boca Chica Gal, or you could look at What About It, or Oh gosh, what's the other one? The guy from Tasmania. Oh my goodness, Marcus House. Jeez, I'm sorry about that. He's one of my favorites. So anyway, but there's a whole bunch of channels that have actual video feed. I just haven't gotten rights to it yet, so I'm sort of waiting on that. I'm hopefully going to get something along those lines as we move forward, but it's a slow process as it turns out. Just hard to get in touch with people. So anyway, I still have not seen the video from SpaceX pop up, and they did promise they were going to stream it. So in the meantime, I'm just sort of waiting and seeing. All right, let's see. Elon likes to teach us to deal with disappointment, but to stay with it until success. That is absolutely true. That's Danacha. Yes, it's definitely, you just kind of have to make do with what's going on. This is very different. In case anybody doesn't know, I kind of assume everybody is such a tech geek around here that they already know all these things, or a space geek, but these are extremely experimental flights, and they're not giving us a public timeline. Pretty much what happens is the community goes out and ferrets out all of this information themselves. So SpaceX, what they'll do is they'll have road closures and area closures to make sure that beaches and boating lanes and highways and things like that are all closed down when this happens. So you'll look at it and they'll have days that they'll have blocked out for that. But they are not, unlike, when the Falcon 9 launches, they have an exact time. They're like at, on the 29th of January at 3:30 p.m. they're going to launch, and if they don't launch, they're going to scrub it. Whereas this is completely different. They just kind of block off the whole day, and you're just there. We're all just there waiting. So I had been waiting several hours, just sort of keeping an eye on what was going on, and it looked like things were getting really close, and then all of a sudden, things went back to a previous state. So I'm not exactly sure where we are. We definitely have fuel propellant in the tank because I can see venting coming off. The oxygen tank is very cold, and you can see that there is frost that has developed on it there too. So yeah, so there you go. We are for sure at a stage where we are just sort of holding, and we're looking to see what's going on. And like I said, if I get to a point where I see that a launch stream has popped up, yeah, on the Discord channel, getting some help from people. Thank you, Dan. No idea what's happening. Nobody does. I think we're all just hanging around. We're waiting to see what happens here. So, okay. Okay. Anyway, so we are definitely, I'm just reloading the SpaceX YouTube page once in a while. I should probably also bring up a YouTube. Yeah, let me look at, let's see if I can just go to SpaceX itself. So I think that might be valuable because maybe on the SpaceX page they might have some information on what's going on. So let me look at this. Actually, I might have the SpaceX page up here somewhere. So hold on one second. Could you go and see the Falcon launch Heavy live in person later this year? Man, Danacha, I am going to try to do that. I actually have a system in place for that. So give me 1 second here to see if I can bring up SpaceX. Hold on. Okay. I just want to see if their own page has anything. They've got a really cool page, by the way. If you go to SpaceX.com, their Starship page has been updated, I think, within the last 24 hours. It is significantly better than it was before. Super, super cool. So I highly recommend that. All right. So back to the comments. No, I'm not seeing anything interesting. So such is life. All right. And yeah, we are still we're still in the pre-stage, so we're waiting to see what's happening. So okay. So yes. Oh, shout out from the Netherlands. Hey Tom. So yeah, could I go see the Falcon Heavy launch? I have a person who is Tom says hodl. Yeah, I think we may be holding for a while. It is unclear exactly how long. The everyday astronaut has recycled to awaiting T-0, so who knows exactly where we are with that. But I don't live that far from like Daytona Beach, Cocoa Beach, etc., where the rockets are launching. So I am definitely going to try to do that. So I have a friend who lives in Orlando, and that's very, very close to where they launch. And so he told me I'm very welcome to come down, and I'm hoping that I will be able to do that. I really, really actually want to watch the rockets land again. So Falcon Heavy is like the perfect timing to do that. The issue, of course, right now is the pandemic, and I really don't want to go there until I have had my vaccines. So, hopefully that will come relatively soon and it won't be an issue anymore. But I would certainly think by, May, June, July, hopefully that won't even be an issue anymore. So I really, really want to watch a Falcon Heavy launch because I want to see the launch itself, because amazingly enough, even though I've watched so many launches streamed on television and on the internet, I've never been able to go see one live. The only one I've actually seen live ever was when I was visiting my brother in Los Angeles, and oh gosh, it might have been December of 2017. It was either December 2017 or December 2018, and the launch took off from Vandenberg just after sunset. And as it went up, I'll try to find some pictures eventually to put up. Maybe I'll post them on the YouTube channel or the community page. But it was an amazing thing because the sun caught the plume, the exhaust plume, as it was launching, and people actually thought that there were aliens in the area and stuff. It was super cool because people were freaking out, but it was absolutely beautiful. It was like, just with my stupid cell phone camera, I was able to capture just amazing pictures because you could actually see the rocket launch, and when the two separated, you could actually see the two separate, and then you could see the booster stage as it was falling. If I'm remembering correctly, they did not actually recover the booster stage, but they still oriented it properly to do like a soft crash into the ocean. But anyway, you could see the venting going on. It was an absolutely stunning launch. But that's the closest I've been to it. I've never heard a rocket launch. I've seen one from far away. So Marcin, I guess, is, what do you think about deep dive to Neuralink topic? Yes, absolutely. I've got so many different topics going on right now, but I really, really want to do a Neuralink one. I think it's fascinating, and I think in some ways it could be more important than a lot of other topics. I mean, automobiles are super cool, and I love Tesla and everything, but Neuralink could literally be changing people's quality of life. So that's a pretty big deal. So absolutely, definitely want to work on that. All right, Magnus. Yeah, the SpaceX Now app says it's 2 hours and 45 minutes. Yeah, cool. Daniel David, the sound is amazing. I'm assuming you're referring to the actual launch itself. Yeah, that's one of the things, like, I've of course I've watched all the Apollo missions and everything on high quality streams and everything, and you put on your headphones and you kind of pretend to imagine, but I can't even, like, I'm a sound designer. Like, one of the things I do is I actually design sound, and so going to hear and actually feel a launch would be incredible. I'd be blown away by the sound of it as much as anything else. Lawrence Guild says, what's up, Doc? Hi, Lawrence. Not too much. Apparently we're just sitting here waiting for SpaceX to decide whether it's going to launch today or not. We will see. I'm going to check speaking of Space Now, I'm going to reload, and oh yeah. Well, that's not a good sign. SpaceX Now has definitely recycled this and said that we're significantly further back in time than where I thought we were before. So they may have held, and they may have decided to move the timeline backwards. On the other hand, I am seeing, well, let me, apparently this all stopped for a second, but apparently I'm looking at the Everyday Astronaut, and he is claiming 4 minutes. So like I said, literally nobody knows what's going on. We're all just sort of waiting. I still have not seen a SpaceX stream pop up. Dan Cobb says, yes, they are holding for some reason. I'm not exactly sure why the Everyday Astronaut, thinks that they are within 4 minutes. I know that he thinks that when they start venting, that is a big, like, sign that things are going on. I think this may have gotten stopped. Hold on 1 second. Let me start this guy up again and take a look at the live chat. Okay. All right. Yeah. Sorry, my apologies. Just going back here, take a look at a couple other things. Just make sure that this is all loading properly. All right. And live chat. All right, cool. Yeah. Alrighty. So yeah, we are still waiting. I'm eagerly refreshing the SpaceX page to see if maybe we can get to, oh, darn it. Sorry. Technical problems. Yay. got an ad for Gwyneth Paltrow that's getting in the way. All right, there we go. Let's see. There we go. Okay. Cool. Yeah, so SpaceX now is saying quite a ways away. The Everyday Astronaut is saying that we are 2 minutes. I kind of can't believe that. Let me check my headphones here. It doesn't look like it's that close, but... We've definitely gotten to the rocket venting stage, so we're seeing what's going on here. All right. Yep, still not seeing anything from SpaceX. All right. I don't know, man. We'll just have to wait and see how this all goes. And like I said, if anybody notices that their SpaceX has put up a stream, for sure let me know, because they have promised, as opposed to the last time when I did the live stream, they have promised this time they're going to do a stream. Usually they only start between 5 and 10 minutes before the actual launch. So who knows? We'll see how it goes, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, so, oh, there we go. Okay, another reload. Waiting to see. Now they've changed their launch window to this. So that's what we got, is a who the heck knows when this thing is going to launch window launch. So yeah, we're waiting to find out. All right. I could actually do something fun, like play one of the last videos instead. Like they have their last mission going up. So if anybody has any questions about what this is in particular, like the Starship and what the particulars of it are, I know a good deal about it. I don't know, don't ask me about the internal plumbing. I would have a hard time telling you exactly where all the tubes and everything go to the engines, but I do know a lot about the ship itself, and I certainly have my Discord people, and they can help out too. So if you have any questions, definitely ask me about that. In the meantime, I'm going to go back and I'm going to check and see if our SpaceX page has been updated at all. Let's see. Upcoming test, yeah. Let's look at the home page. Oh, I think we might have a view. Oh, it says watch. It's not there yet. They definitely have updated it though, because there's a watch. They just updated the link on the SpaceX homepage to watch. So let me put in, let's see if I can do this. Upcoming test, watch, SpaceX vehicle, Starship. I'm going to add this page to my to my OBS software. So give me just a moment to do this. So what I'm going to attempt to do here, hopefully it'll work, is add a page. So let's add a web browser, and I'm going to call this SpaceX X2. All right. And we'll put in the URL. Starship browser source. All right, let's see how that works. All right. Yes, that looks definitely positive. And let me expand this out bigger. So there we go, and move it up a little bit. Okay. All right. So we have something going on here. At least they now have a watch button, so that's a positive. All righty. There we go. And let me go ahead and reload this while we're waiting, so we can see what's going on. Alrighty. So yeah, like I said, that's a positive sign that we now have a watch thing on the page that was not there before. And if you have questions about this, it sounds like most people must already know what's going on with the high altitude flight test and what the rocket is. But basically, if you don't know, for those who may not, the Starship is actually the top half of a really, really tall vehicle. I'm trying to remember what it is. It's well, it's right around the same size as the Saturn V, but much, much bigger around. It's 9 meters diameter, so from side to side, or what is that, somewhere around 30-something feet. So it's absolutely monstrous in terms of its diameter, so it's really huge. But also not this. The Starship is just the top half. It's the I don't know, the equivalent of like I don't even know. Maybe the equivalent of the third stage and the service module and the command module of the Apollo rocket. So that section of it, and then the bottom, if you remember, the bottom is much, much bigger. The first and second stage of the Apollo rocket was significantly larger than the rest of the craft. So this is like the smaller piece. And this is still monstrous. It's like 12 stories tall. Whereas the super heavy booster, which is the bottom part, it looks just like this, except instead of having a cone at the top, it just has a connector where it sits underneath. It fits underneath this Starship part. So that's the first stage, and it has, I think the latest count is 27 engines, whereas this one only has 3 sea level and 3 vacuum optimized engines on it. And then the super heavy also, instead of having these cool aileron kind of things that can cause it to belly flop properly, it has grid fins that pop out like this. So very, very similar to the Falcon 9's lower or booster stage. So from there, it can actually control its descent through the atmosphere, and the intention is for it to land potentially without even having landing legs. That's what I've been hearing about lately, is that they're going to catch it with some sort of like some arms or something on the maybe the launch tower, and it's going to come back down again, and it will actually get caught on its grid fins, which is kind of nutty, but I guess they're trying to save as much weight and complexity as possible. Luke, hey, off topic, what do you think about the new Tesla Model S X interior? Oh my goodness. That is a great question. I tell you what, it made me really wish that I had $140,000 or so lying around, because it's maybe what I can do is I can convince our Tesla dealer or showroom close by to let us test drive it someday. That would be pretty cool. But I think the interior looks fantastic. I don't know, honestly. I've gotten so used to not having an instrument cluster behind the steering wheel that I actually don't know that I necessarily would even want that anymore. But given the fact that the steering wheel itself is very flat and doesn't have a top anymore, then it's not going to have that. One of the problems with an instrument cluster is you're always looking through the steering wheel like this, right, at the instrument cluster. And so I think that we're looking at very, very cool rethinking of how a car would work. I definitely love the fact that there's a touch screen in the back for the kids, because that means they control things like the heated seating and things like that. So, and right now, at least in a Model Y and a Model 3, you have to control like rear seating, heating and stuff from the front, because there is no interface in the back to control that. So I think that's a pretty cool benefit. The thing that I'm freaking out about, honestly, Luke, is the fact that he's claiming that there are no stalks. So there's no like stalk on the right. You know how like right now you put it in drive or reverse or something by pushing down the right stalk. And of course you can put it into cruise control and full self-driving with the right stalk. And then the left stalk, which I thought was a legal requirement, is not there either. And that's the turn signal, which is bizarre. Looks like the frost. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you might be right. It is. It does look like the frost is kind of gone, but at the same time, I mean, it's definitely, I have not seen a large vent that's just been like and blown out all of the propellant. So, with luck, I still see the frost on the bottom part. So I don't know, maybe I assume that, oh gosh, I can't remember which header tank has the oxygen. I don't know if it's the top or the bottom one. But anyway, it is an interesting thing that it's not there. It is possible also, it could just be that the sun's on it and it's very, very bright, or very heated. It's very hot. So it could be, combating that on this particular side looking at it. So anyway, we will see. Let me refresh this and see. Okay. I'm still not seeing. Hold on. Let me go to here. And well, now what's going on? Let's take a look at this watch thing and see if we're getting anywhere. Nope. Alrighty. Still kind of hanging around. One thing that's interesting is I am not seeing any venting out of the like oxygen, the fuel farm on the bottom, those white tanks that are on the side. They used to be venting and they're not anymore. Oh, did they get Tanaka, did they lose their approval again? I don't know what the hell the FAA is doing today. It seems like they're playing around with them. So, yeah, I don't know. It sounds like the FAA is a big part of the problem right now, and I don't know what the deal is. I don't know. A lot of people have been complaining about the fact that they don't seem to be capable of being flexible like this, right? They don't seem to be able to say like, yeah, we can keep it open, and then if you give us a half an hour, we'll fix the problem for you. They're very extremely stodgy, as you could imagine with bureaucracy. I mean, I don't know the FAA personally, but I imagine it like, the driver, the Department of Motor Vehicles, the place you go to get your new license. I imagine them like that on steroids. They're probably incredibly bureaucratic and slow. Yes, Dan also noticed that frost is gone from the header tank, so that's probably a bad sign for anything happening real soon. We will see. Muddy 112233 off topic. Do you think Tesla increased full self-driving package price to temporarily limit liability to less people purchase it? Oh my. So Muddy, that is an interesting question. The question is, do you think that the package, the full self-driving or enhanced navigate on autopilot, has been increased to what frankly is an outrageously expensive price of $10,000 US in order to keep people from purchasing it? I don't think so. I think the reason why is because it was so coincident with when they released the limited beta. Like basically they released the limited beta and they started charging more for the software package. So I think it was Elon Musk saying this software is really worth a lot of money now because it's going to drive your car soon. So I think it's more along those lines. I don't know why they would intentionally make the price of the software so high that nobody would use it, because everybody else, like me included, is using the older version of the software. So I'm using a version of the software that doesn't have the beta qualities to it, but it's also a fully released version. So I don't think it matters how many people they roll it out to. So I think it has much more to do with the fact that the beta's out and that Elon Musk in particular is convinced it's going to be worth a great deal of money soon. But I will tell you this. One thing I'm super pissed about is in the earnings call yesterday, they talked about how they're not going to give people... Sounds like you could hop today. Tronicum, yes, I am. I'm streaming. Come watch me. He needs to come pay attention. He should be watching the live stream instead of contacting me on Discord. Anyway, to get back to, I'm like really, really upset about the fact that they are not crediting people when they purchase a Tesla with the enhanced navigate on autopilot, which is $10,000. That is it's a huge amount. I just calculated it. If you buy the standard range plus model car, it is 27% of the price of the car for a piece of software. And if you're not going to include that when you resell the car, that seems outrageous to me. And frankly, it sounds like it might actually even potentially be illegal. I mean, I don't know. I guess they could argue that you're renting the software and you're paying for it, but that would make sense if you had a subscription to the software. But if you actually purchase, I mean, I kind of likened it to, I actually did a tweet to Elon Musk today, not that he'll ever respond to me, but I tweeted him and said, look, if I bought a $10,000, like souped up interior, like leather seats or whatever with my new car, you're not going to, at the end of that, when I go to trade my car in, you're not going to rip out the leather seats and go like, sorry, buddy, you don't get credit for that, right? You're going to get credit for buying those leather seats because that's something you purchased and it increased the value of the car. So that seems really, really greedy and smarmy that they are attempting to not count the full self-driving software when you sell your car. And I'm personally affected by this because, of course, if I sell my car, I want to either be able to take that package and move it to my new car, which would be acceptable to me, right? So I paid for it once and I get to move it to a new car. Like if you bought a new computer and you bought some expensive software, you'd have the right to install that new software on your new computer. No problem. Or the other option is to be able to sell it and of course sell it to the person. So Fred buys this from me and then Fred gets the full self-driving so that Fred will pay me more money for the car, or, Tesla will pay me more money for the car also. So either one of those would be fine with me, but just saying basically that $10,000 disappears when you sell the car is not cool. I think that's incorrect, and I really hope that they're going to fix that problem. So if anybody from Tesla happens to be listening to this, you should fix this problem. It's a serious problem. Consumers are not going to be happy about that. All right, I've gotten off. Let's see. That was Maddie. Rick. There was a plane in the air. This was causing a safety issue. Oh, thank you, Rick. It's very difficult because, of course, doing the live stream, I can't keep track of all the things that are going on. I appreciate that. Thank you for the comment. So apparently they've had to recycle. I don't know the kind of timing about it. I guess they are still, according to John, they are still on hold pending FAA approval. So lovely. That's the way it goes. Luke says, Elon was confident on the earnings call that full self-driving would be level 4 or 5 by the end of this year. Do you think that's possible? And they probably pushing the subscription on people instead. Yes. Okay, so let me answer the second half of that first. I think that the subscription is probably what Tesla is going to want to go to. And I'm going to relate this. I don't know if you've seen my other videos. That there was one that wasn't all that popular, but I think you should go back and watch it, about why Tesla is buying back or not allowing people to buy their cars at the end of their leases. So if I lease a new Tesla Model Y right now, I get 3 years and I get a maximum of 36,000 miles that I can put on the car, right? 12,000 miles a year. And at the end of that, if I did that with GM or Ford or whoever, I would have the option then of purchasing that car from them for an additional price. So my thought is that they're not letting people purchase their cars back, and they're being, what's a PG word? They're being donkey's butts. So you can imagine what that actual word would be. But they're being very nasty to their consumers in terms of when we purchase that software, that we're not allowed to keep it and we have to purchase it again. And I think that's right. I think what Luke is saying is they're probably trying to push us towards a subscription service where basically they can turn it on and turn it off at any point. So if I was only paying on a per month basis, Tesla could at any point say, as of March 1st, you no longer have full self-driving and you don't have to pay for it anymore, but you don't get it anymore. So that would then increase the value of their fleet of cars. So I think all of this together tells me that, as Elon Musk says, he is super, super confident that Tesla is going to have level 4 or 5 autonomy licked by the end of this year. And then they're going to have to deal with regulatory approval, and that, who knows how long that's going to take. But anyway, so if they really, really think that strongly that they're going to have it done, what they want is a ton of cars at that point. And people leasing these cars is actually a way of them paying off the expense of building the car. So after a lease of about 3 years, people have paid somewhere between $18,000 and $20,000 towards the cost of the car. And that is a somewhere in the range of half of the cost of building the car, maybe more than that. And so basically Tesla gets a car with only 30-something thousand miles on it that has partially been paid off, and they can then take that car and put it in their fleet, and then they can rent the car out using autonomous ride hailing. What an ingenious idea, right? So they've got this entire idea going on that they are going to build up a massive fleet of cars that they own, and then they're going to rent them out, ride-hailing wise. It's going to be Tesla, Uber, Lyft, Tesla, or something. Or maybe they'll spin it off into another company and call it Robotaxi or something. I don't know. But anyway, I think that they're going to be pretty hardcore about holding on to that tech and using it for them, rather than letting us consumers have it as much as we have in the past. So I think that's a little unfortunate. On the good end of things, I also, as you probably have also seen in previous videos, I think that there's a high degree of likelihood that we're not going to own cars in between 5 and 10 years, because it will just be economically ridiculous to own a car as opposed to just ride hailing whenever you want one, right? You want a car, you just, on your phone, you just go boop, I need a car. In a couple of minutes it's there, and you leave and you pay for it by the mile or by the minute or something, and you get out and you're done. There's no more insurance costs. There's no more purchasing the car. There's no more maintenance. There's no more parking. There's no more dealing with all that crap. So, there's just a lot of stuff that you don't have to deal with if you don't own a car, which is really nice. Plus the fact you can get whatever car you need for the time. If you just need a little tiny city car, you can pay less for that. And then if you happen to need a Cybertruck for some reason to haul some stuff, you can get that. Or if you need a long range car that can go multiple hundreds of miles on a road trip, you can get that. So you just I think it's a much more flexible solution, and it's going to be very beneficial, and the world is going to move to that very rapidly when the economics dictate it. They don't yet. Wow. So that was a very, very long thing. do you think? Sorry. So Luke, sorry. The other part of the question is, do I think that they're going to solve it by the end of this year? I personally, honestly think that that is going to be a yes conditionally. So I think personally that they're going to need hardware 4 in the cars to do it for real. I think hardware 3 maybe could do it, but it's going to really be pushing it. But I think hardware 4 is going to make it much easier in the cars. Not that they have to do training and stuff, but because they have to get the, I guess basically just a higher frame rate. So, they need to have more processing power in order to do it better and chase those nines. So maybe they can get like 99.999% with hardware 3, but they can add another 2 nines to that with hardware 4. And so that's going to be a big deal to them. So I don't know. In some senses, I really worry that I've been screwed by paying $10,000 for the full self-driving package. I really, really wanted it, and I think it's fantastic, and I love it, but it's, it's just more or less a toy at this point. It's not really usable yet. So that was a lot of money for beta software. So there you go. I'm not as convinced as Elon is that it's going to be done by the end of this year, but he knows a hell of a lot more than I do because he's in, he's in the trenches working on this software. So he very well might know stuff that the rest of us just don't. All right, Jason, if they license to other companies, a recurring rental model would be a great fit if they could get paid. Yes. So Jason, right. We're going from a lot of software nowadays is moving to a subscription basis, right? You used to purchase Microsoft Word or you'd purchase Maya, which I use, and you just pay for it once, and then maybe you get a couple of years of upgrades, and then after a while you have to pay for a new version or something. So that's currently what's going on with our cars, is that we pay for it once and then eventually we get an upgrade because we buy a new car. But I think going to this more subscription base, certainly for the software first, but then eventually for the cars, because like I said, if we don't own cars and we just use them, we are always getting new cars whenever we want. So I think a subscription service is going to be beneficial to Tesla in terms of just consistent cash flow. They don't really have to worry about that yet, but eventually they are going to saturate the market. So having a more consistent cash flow is really going to help them a lot with that. So yeah, definitely I think a rental model or a subscription model for both cars and for software, I think software first, but then cars later on, will be highly beneficial for Tesla. All right. So Tim, you can purchase Tim Dodaro. Okay, I haven't checked this recently since I purchased the car. Tim says that you can now purchase the car after leasing it. That is interesting. So, so one of the main things I was sticking with was that they were so confident that they were going to have this full self-driving licked that they were not going to let people purchase their cars afterwards because they wanted this fleet of cars. But that's interesting. They may have changed their tune a little bit. Like internally, they may be like, uh-oh, we're a little further away than we thought they were. So yeah, interesting. I haven't checked, since I was in the market for purchasing a car myself a couple of months ago, I haven't looked at that. So I'll have to go look after I get done with this live stream. That is fascinating. Jason Cox, what are your thoughts on Dojo training as a service? Will it be the Amazon Web Service of machine learning? Well, I think Amazon Web Service would like to think of themselves as the Amazon Web Service of machine learning. I think that, yes, I think eventually it will be. I think, or perhaps Dojo 2. So I think in the near term, Tesla is going to want to use all of that processing power to solve full self-driving. But eventually they're going to, right? They're going to get full self-driving completely done. And then what are they going to use this for? Sure, they'll keep chasing the nines. And of course, they're going to want to keep improving. But the kind of like, all hands on deck need for Dojo is going to reduce at that point as they get to a very, very high degree of reliability in terms of the training for the cars. So at that point, in fact, Elon Musk has already talked about leasing out or renting out or potentially giving out for educational institutions some time on Dojo. And since it's so very, very specifically designed for for machine learning training, it would be fantastic. I mean, getting a couple of seconds on that would probably be worth days on smaller supercomputer clusters that were not designed specifically for machine learning. So yeah, I think that they definitely will because Elon Musk has said they will, but I think that they're going to front load working on solving their problems themselves. And then once they do that and they feel confident that they've got it pretty well worked out, that they could do that. The other option, of course, is that once they get Dojo 1 built, they could always build another one. And maybe what they could do is the new one has all the new tech that they will keep on using for training, and then they'll rent out the old one. So they could do that. So, or they can do both. So both of those things are certainly possible. Hi, Rebecca. Nice to see you too. Jason, will Dojo hardware be a general purpose machine learning platform, or is it specific to vision? So my understanding, and all of this is very thin, because of course Tesla is pretty mum about exactly what the capabilities are of Dojo, but I would think it would be, I mean, what they're working with is NPUs, which is neural processing units. So those are pretty, they're general purpose. You don't just have to be using those for driving. The one thing that might stand in the way of it, and I don't know if this would be in hardware or just software, but what could stand in the way of it is if the processors are only designed to have a certain bit depth. So maybe they can only do integer calculations, or maybe they can only do float 32 calculations, and your machine learning thing might need 64-bit. And if that's the case, and if it's baked into the hardware, that could actually limit some of the use cases. But I don't think there's anything in the architecture itself, at least from what I can see so far, that would tell me that they would not be able to, do general purpose machine learning. So I think there could be some limitations, but they should be relatively small. So that's what I'm thinking about on that terms. So, okay, we are still actually, gosh, I'm seeing a teeny bit of rocket venting out the bottom of the rocket, but certainly nothing fantastic at this point. It's just kind of chilling there. So, okay. SpaceX Dream was online for a couple. Oh, okay. Let me, let's watch this. Hold on one second. Let me interact with this and click the watch button. And nope. Alrighty. Yeah. I'll just keep recycling it. Unfortunately, doesn't look like there's anything yet. So thank you, Tronicum, for keeping up with this. Got folks on Discord who are helping me out today to keep up with what's going on. Sometimes I get lost in answering a question and then I forget to look and see what's actually happening right now. So I'm trying to keep my eye out for all of this stuff. Anyway, very interesting that SpaceX had a stream online for a minute. But does anybody know if the FAA has cleared them again? I'm not exactly sure how to look that up. Jason, thanks for sharing your thoughts. I appreciate. Sure, absolutely. I'm actually super excited. I'm hoping that educational institutions will be allowed to utilize some of this stuff because it's pretty cool. By the way, Google Colab also does this, and they are really, really cool, but they have a really bad terms of service. But what they do is if you're using it as an educational institution, and I know this because we were looking at the potential of starting a small business based on some AI research that we've been doing. And if you use their technology, like if you use Google Colab, which is the same kind of thing as Amazon Web Service or what Dojo would be, so it allows you to do machine learning very rapidly. If you use it without paying for it, they own your intellectual property. So we were like, oh, we're an educational institution. This is going to be fantastic. We'll be able to get time on this. It'll be so much faster to train our stuff, and this will be great. And then we looked at the terms of service, and we were like, whoa, we don't want to be giving up our IP to Google to do that. So so you have to be very careful with this. I don't know what Amazon Web Services terms of service are, so need to look that up because I think we're probably going to use that. But certainly you would want to look at that with Dojo as well and make sure that Tesla was not going to go like, oh, if you use our service, we own your IP. That would be pretty bad. So yeah, let me take a look. I'm going to go back and look at SpaceX now again, just see if they've updated their time. Woo, they're still saying 2 hours and 9 minutes. All my European friends, I'm so sorry. I don't know why. It always seems like you have to be up till midnight. There's just no way you're going to get away with it. It's the craziest thing that everybody, they always talk about. In fact, I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was Rubik's today that said, oh, we won't have to be up till midnight tonight. And he was very excited. And now it is now, 10:30 at night there. So it's going to be midnight soon. And it very well could be that it might be midnight before this thing launches. There, of course. It would be 5 o'clock Central Time or 6 o'clock East Coast Time if it takes a couple of hours. But hopefully it's a little bit faster than that. But I'm looking at the rocket right now, and there is no frost on any of it. The header tank is gone up at the nose cone. The bottom part down where the fins are gone. Yeah. By the by, I don't know if anybody's looked at it, but those fins look really funky. They look like somebody, what's that old school thing where you hammer metal to create something like, right? They're I don't know, if you go to TJ Maxx or Pier 1 Imports or something, a lot of times they have plates that look like somebody hammered them to put little dents in them to make them look cool and old school. And I tell you, man, the aileron flaps look just like that on the rocket. They're all kind of dimpled and dented, and I have to imagine that's on purpose, that maybe it's an airflow thing, that they're trying to disturb the airflow going over it to make the airflow as non-laminar as possible. So laminar is like smooth and has very low friction, whereas a more turbulent flow has a lot of friction and will slow the rocket down much, much more rapidly as it goes through the atmosphere. So I mean, that's my guess. Either that or else they just suck at manufacturing ailerons. But I kind of can't believe that. I mean, it's just a solid, it's just a sheet of steel, basically. So there would be no reason for it to be that weird looking if it wasn't on purpose. All right. Forged. Jason Cox. Forged. Yes, that's the word. Thank you. And Madi, you're welcome very much. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I don't know. It looks like... Again, it looks like we might be on hold for a while, and no one... Like dimples on a golf ball. Dan Cobb, yes, on Discord, Dan suggested dimples. That's the much, much better. I don't know. I was thinking about like old plates and stuff, probably because it's stainless steel. But yes, think about it like dimples on a golf ball. A golf ball has much, much more interaction with the air because of all those little dimples. A perfectly round spherical ball would not cut through the air. It wouldn't be able to do those slices. It wouldn't actually rise up. And one of the reasons why you can hit a golf ball so far is because when you hit it, you notice that the clubs, let's see if I can get this right there like that. The clubs aren't straight up and down. They're angled back like, geez, I can't get it right. There we go. They're angled back like that. So when you strike the ball, it puts a spin on it. That's an underspin. And anybody who's played tennis, you know that also. If you hit downward like that, like with the slice, it puts underspin on the ball the same way, and the little fuzzies on the tennis ball or the dimples on the golf ball interact with the air and actually cause it to rise up like that. So a golf shot, as opposed to going straight, goes like that, up in the air and then down. So it's increasing the friction, it's increasing the interaction with the atmosphere, and that's causing it to have different aerodynamic properties. So that's my guess, is that's why they've got the fins like that. This appears to be the back from what I'm looking at from the view. There are two sides to it, and it looks like both sides are dimpled, so I'm not exactly sure. Maybe actually they're using it during the launch as well, because otherwise it would make a lot of sense to have the dimples only on the surface, right? Because it's only going to fall one direction. They definitely have a bottom and a top on this. So as it falls, only one side is going to be facing the wind as it goes down, and so it makes sense to dimple that and have the other side smoother. But it's possible that as it's going up, that it could give it some flight stability to have a little bit of non-laminar flow over the fins as it's going up. It's a really interesting and fascinating thing. If anybody happens to actually know what the answer is, I'm assuming it's like dimples on a golf ball. But if anybody has the inside scoop, and why it would be on both sides as opposed to just one, that would be really, really cool to find out. All right. So yeah, again, definitely we're still seeing venting, but there's not really much else besides that. It's kind of fascinating to see. They may be very slowly draining off the oxygen tank. The main reason I say that is because the fuel, like like the white cylinders at the bottom of the fuel farm, are not venting right now. So that indicates to me that they're not really actively doing very much. Thomas O, if this is prototyping, why don't they make smaller models first? Oh. Could they make smaller models to compete with the Amazon drone deliveries? Wow. Thomas, did you happen to look at the big ideas that I just released that video this morning, but I only talked about 2 chapters in that, on autonomous driving and on autonomous driving and EV adoption. But they also have an entire chapter of their report that is devoted just to drones. So drones are really an interesting technology. I, I kind of can't really see a scaled down version of a Starship being a very effective drone replacement, simply because could you, I mean, it'd be super cool to have this thing come land in your front yard, but it would also leave a crater in your front yard. So it would be really badass for once, but you'd probably be pissed off. And I have a feeling your neighbors would be very unhappy about the fact that they had a very loud rocket ship coming down and blasting a hole in the yard and making a bunch of noise and potentially breaking the sound barrier. So I don't know. That would be really cool. But as far as building scale prototypes, I'm sure that they have built a lot of scale prototypes for use in wind tunnel testing, and certainly, of course, they've done full scale models in software. But I guess that they just felt the problem with that is to build a scaled down version of the Merlin engine would be, sorry, Merlin Raptor, sorry. I always get them mixed up. They're always birds. But anyway, to build a scaled down version of the engine would be to build a whole new engine. And actually, in a lot of ways, it would be more complicated because you'd have to build, all the plumbing would be smaller. The combustion chamber would be smaller, so there'd be different characteristics to it. The amount of fuel that flowed through it would be different. So, if you imagine if you built a 1/10 scale model of this, it'd be really cool looking. But you would then, what would you do? The engine itself would be like as large as the rocket, and that really wouldn't work. So I think that they kind of have to just build it at full scale, and that's kind of the way they got to go with it. So I think that's pretty much what has to happen. I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure that they built a lot of scale models to do wind tunnel testing and stuff with before they built this thing. I mean, you can go back a couple of years when they were building this out of carbon fiber, and they had that huge lathe looking thing. I can't remember what that was called, but it was this really big cylinder that they were weaving carbon fiber over, and it was amazing, and it looked like it was going to be this high-tech white rocket ship with carbon fiber all over it. And now we've kind of taken a trip back in history. We're like Back to the Future. We're like back to the 1950s looking thing. I mean, clearly this is something that Wernher von Braun, if he saw this picture that's sitting up here right now, the picture of the rocket, he would go like, yeah, that looks like something I would design, right? So it's something from the 1950s that looks completely at home in the science fiction and the projected future of the time period. So maybe we're just getting there now. I don't know. By the way, there's a really fascinating aspect of the moon race that I've been thinking about recently, and I might actually do an episode on this. But the sort of TLDR, the too long don't read or don't listen version, is that the United States and the Soviet Union may have screwed themselves over in the Cold War by taking, I guess, what you would call the dumb way out or the easy way out. There was a big contingent in NASA in the late 1950s into the early 1960s that said that continuing the X-plane, if you remember that was the plane with the super short stubby wings and the titanium body, and it actually got into space a few times. It didn't get into orbit, but it got up over the Kármán line and came back down again. So they were saying that would have been the slower process, but it would have made space more maintainable. We would have been able to have a better roadmap. So basically what happened was the Soviet Union and the United States, because they were like, Cold War, right? Got to fight each other. They got into a situation where they were just like, build the stupidest, dumbest machine, the biggest machine you can. And I'm not taking anything away from these because the Saturn V is still my favorite rocket ship ever. Even with the Starship, maybe when they stack the Super Heavy on it, then I'll change my mind. But at this point, I love the Saturn V. But it was a big brute of a machine. And it was designed for one purpose, which was to beat the Soviets. And that's all that mattered. And then the Soviets built the N1, which was designed to beat the US. So they were sort of going after that, and the design of the spacecraft capsules, the gumdrop shape with the rounded bottom, was just because that, again, was like the easiest way to go. It was what they could do fastest, because with the materials on hand that they had at the time, they could do that. So I feel like Starship is finally it's all the way getting back to what was happening in the late 1950s. The idea of course, and also Virgin Galactic and Virgin Orbital with launching off of an airplane, right? So that's how the X-15 was launched, and the X-1 and a bunch of other rocket planes, is they would take a big mothership up that was like, holding onto the baby missile or the baby spacecraft, and then the mothership would drop it like this and it would fall, the rockets would fire, and it would go up. So it was already at thousands of meters, or tens of thousands of feet up, and it was already moving at some speed previous to getting into space, which takes, a lot of the stuff, a lot of the difficulty of getting into space happens in that bottom little bit. We're in a very, very deep gravity well, and there's really thick atmosphere. And those two things are nasty. They're problematic. And so having the ability to get over all of that stuff in a reusable airplane is huge. The Starship, of course, is not an airplane, but the Super Heavy booster will act like an airplane in the sense that it's completely reusable. That's been one of the problems with rocketry, is that you give up so much because you're throwing away everything you built. So the idea of this is to not only be reusable, but also to fly more like the original projected view of what space flight was going to look like before the Cold War got in the way, which was to use something more like an aircraft, to fly more in a horizontal, or in this case a belly flop, and come in a belly flop, and not use these little gumdrop capsules, instead to use a big rocket. So I find it really fascinating, and I don't know if there's enough interest out there for me to do a whole video on that, but I think it's just a really, really fascinating. I kind of gave you my whole argument, probably not nearly as well organized as if I wrote it out, but that's my basic thought, is that we're back to the future, right? So I guess that's what I would call the video. I'd call it Back to the Future with Starship, because I think it's just fascinating what they're doing. And oh gosh, that's not a good sign. Sorry, I'm looking up. It looks like there's a significant amount of venting happening out of the middle of the rocket right now, which would indicate to me that they may be detanking. So let me just take a quick listen. Well, not hearing anything at all. Sorry, I can't hear the detanking stuff, but I can definitely see it happening. Has anybody happened to see any more information about this? Because that does not look like standard pressure release. That looks like they're getting rid of it for the day, and they're going to call it quits. So, yeah, unfortunately, that's what I'm going to guess, because I'm now seeing two vents, and so I'm thinking the oxygen and the methane are both detanking, which is not a good sign for it actually taking off. Super bummer. All right. Well, we may be at a point where we're kind of done for the day, because yeah, that is definitely not a good sign. I mean, it's possible that they may retank in a couple of hours, but what are we looking at? It's 4 o'clock, 1600 local time, just about. So they've probably got a maximum of 2 more hours of daylight, and I'm certain they're not going to launch this thing after dark. So yeah, oh, that's unfortunate. I was really looking forward to this thing flying. I'm bummed out. Super bummed out. All right, let's see. Again, I'm just, yeah, not really hearing anything. Wow. Let me refresh this page one more time and see if they've gotten rid of the watch button. Nope, there's still a watch button. So it still says you can watch it, but there's not really much to see at this point. Let me just cycle this over. Sorry, taking a quick peek to see if there's any more information from SpaceX. Nope, looks like not. Bummer. All right. Oh, and then, yep, the detanking may have stopped. I'm not sure. It definitely went out. Okay, Tim's back. Let me see what he has to say. Taking a quick listen. Yep. He agrees. Yeah, okay. So Tim Dodd definitely agrees. I was looking at it. It definitely looked like there was a detanking vent going on, and it is possible that they recycle this and try again today, but I'm kind of doubting it, because I don't really see the point of detanking as much as they did if they're going to try to recycle in like less than 2 hours. But we will see. Does anybody have any last questions? Otherwise, I will probably stop this. Definitely keep an eye out. I'll post again if it looks like, something's going to happen. I would certainly love to see it actually launch live with you. That'd be really cool, but they're teasing us, man. They're teasing us, so I don't know. Anyway, if you have any questions, ask them quickly, because otherwise I will probably terminate this for the near term, and we will, catch back up again when they decide they're going to try again. It's unfortunate. It looks like the weather's really, really good finally. It was kind of cloudy earlier, but it got nice and sunny. It looks really nice, but unfortunately, it looks like they're not going to try it for now. Alrighty, folks, I really appreciate everybody watching, and I hope the conversation was interesting at the least. One of these days, we're going to get to actually watch this thing. I promise. We're going to actually make it happen. Alrighty, till next time, I will talk to you all later. Don't forget, ask questions in the comments or at my email address. Definitely write my email address, which is DrKnowItAllKnows@gmail.com. If you have any other questions for me, or if you'd like to see me do a video on a particular topic or anything. Till next time, talk to you later. Oh, definitely don't forget the merch store. Don't forget the TeslaBot t-shirt. Cool stuff. And don't forget the coffee mug. All of those good things. So, Thomas, goodbye. I'll talk to you later.